Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th Canto, Chapter 1, Text number 3. Itinaha sumaha bhagha. Itinaha sumaha bhaga. Narayana gunan prati. Narayana gunan prati. Samshaya sumahan jatas. Samshayaha sumahan jatas. Tadbhavam chetumarhati. Tadbhavam chetumarhati. Itinaha sumaha bhaga. Narayana gunan prati. Samshayaha sumahan jatas. Tadbhavam chetumarhati. Itinaha sumaha bhaga. Narayana gunan prati. Samshaya sumahan jata. Tadbhavam chetumarhati. Itinaha sumaha bhaga. Narayana gunan prati. Samshaya sumahan jatas. Tadbhavam chetumarhati. Itinaha sumaha bhaga. Narayana gunan prati. Samsaya sumahan jatas. Tadbhavam chetumarhati. Word to word translation. Iti, thus. Naha, our. Sumaha bhaga. O glorious one. Narayana gunan. The qualities of Narayana. prati, toward, samshayaha, doubt, sumahan, very great, jataha, born, that, that, bhavan, your lordship, chetum arhati, please dispel. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. O greatly fortunate, a learned Brahmana, whether Narayana is partial or impartial has become a subject of great doubt. Kindly dispel my doubt with positive evidence that Narayana is always neutral and equal to everyone. Purport. Since Lord Narayana is absolute, His transcendental qualities are described as one. Thus, His punishment and His offerings of favor are both of the same value. Essentially, His inimical actions are not displays of enmity towards His so-called enemies. But in the material field, one thinks that Krishna is favorable to devotees and unfavorable to non-devotees. When Krishna finally instructs in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja, Bhagavad Gita 18.66. This is meant not only for Arjuna, but for every living entity within this universe. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Agnana Timirandasya Grananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yenam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gauravaktaranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. O greatly fortunate and learned Brahmana, whether Narayana is partial or impartial has become a subject of great doubt. Kindly dispel my doubt with positive evidence that Narayana is always neutral and equal to everyone. What I will do is I'll actually read the Srila Prabhupada's summary of this chapter. It gives a little bit context to us about who is asking the question, what is being asked. So, 7th canto, chapter 1. The Supreme Lord is equal to everyone. In this chapter, in response to a question by Maharaj Parikshit, Shukadeva Goswami gives his conclusions concerning how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although the Supersoul, friend, and protector of everyone, kills the Daityas, the demons, for the sake of Indra, the king of heaven. In his statements, he totally refutes the arguments of people in general who accuse the Supreme Lord of partiality. Shukadeva Goswami proves that because the body of the conditioned soul is infected by the three qualities of nature, dualities arise such as enmity and friendship, attachment and detachment. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, there are no such dualities. Even eternal time cannot control the activities of the Lord. Eternal time is created by the Lord and it acts under His control. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore, is always transcendental to the influence of the modes of nature, Maya, the Lord's external energy, which acts in creation and annihilation. Thus, all the demons killed by the Supreme Lord attain salvation immediately. So we see here a very classical question that is always asked in philosophy is being asked by Maharaj Parikshit to Shukadeva Goswami. This is a conundrum that is described and discussed by all kinds of philosophers from in all countries. They say, if God is all powerful, if He is all merciful, okay, and there is suffering in this world, how can all of three of them be true at the same time? Right? If God is all powerful, is all merciful, then there shouldn't be any suffering in this world. Right? They give the example. Small baby. Right? In the womb itself, the baby is born, baby is conceived with some disease, and the baby dies in the womb. Question comes up, hey, what did the baby do? What karma is the baby, like whom did the baby harm? Especially in the Abrahamic religions, where they don't have a concept of reincarnation, it becomes even more complicated. How do you explain this? At least, we can say, in the previous life they must have done something. Right? So they're saying, if God is all powerful and God is all merciful, then there is somebody else. Like how can there be suffering? There should not be any suffering. Because there is suffering, either God is not all powerful, meaning there is somebody else who is more powerful than God who is punishing or who is creating these problems, or God is not merciful. He is partial to different people. Here Parishit Maharaj is saying, Vritrasura was killed by Indra. Right? And the Lord is favoring, coming always to the rescue of Indra, comes up with different ways to protect them, right? To rescue them. Why is God partial like this? In fact, later in the chapter, he asks a second question, which is also very interesting. We'll come to that. But let's finish this first question. Is God partial? And Srila Prabhupada is talking about how in this material world there is duality. There is enmity and friendship. There is favor and disfavor. But the Supreme Lord is completely absolute. So, which is the verse from the Bhagavad Gita which clarifies this position of whether God is partial? Samoham sarva bhuteshu, and then na priyaha. Okay, that is one verse. Yeah. Ye etamam prapadyante tam sateva bhajamyaham. Actually, that is the fundamental crux of the whole thing. Bhagavan Krishna is telling in the Gita, etam am prapadyante stam tateva bhajamyaham. As you surrender unto me, same way I'll reciprocate. The reality is, all living entities have an ability to surrender to the Lord and get the Lord's full favor. It is being openly, or being offered to everyone. But the living entity should have the willingness to take it and apply it. Right? That is the challenge. The challenge is not about the Lord's being favorable or not favorable. So, there is a discussion of how the Lord, in the second question that is asked, let me just read the question and then you will get a feeling for. The second question raised by Parikshit Maharaj concerns how Shishupala, although inimical towards Krishna, what is going on? Can you please find out? What is going on? The second question raised by Parikshit Maharaj concerns how Shishupala, although inimical towards Krishna from his very childhood and always blaspheming Krishna, attained salvation in oneness when Krishna killed him. Shukadeva Goswami explains that because of their offenses at the feet of devotees, two attendants of the Lord in Vaikuntha, named Jaya and Vijaya, became Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha in Satya Yuga, Ravana and Kumbhakarna in the next Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Shishupala and Dantavakra at the end of Dwapara Yuga. Because of their fruitive acts, Jaya and Vijaya agreed to become the Lord's enemies, and when killed in that mentality, they attained salvation in oneness. Thus, even if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in envy, he attains salvation. What then is to be said of devotees who always engage in the Lord's service with love and faith? It's a very interesting pastime here, right? When you go a little technically in this, anybody is killed by Krishna, they go back to Godhead, right? Either, in different forms. They'll go back to the spiritual world. Then how come when Krishna killed, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, at that time itself they didn't go back? Right? This question is asked. A very technical answer is given to that question. Anybody wants to try? Why? So if Krishna comes as Narsimha Deva, then if he's killed, they don't go back. Only when Krishna only comes, full potency, this thing. Actually, not the right answer, but somebody else.
Another thing is they have three births. There are 7 births.
Okay, that is the story behind it. But how does this thing not work? Like, the fact, if anybody is killed by the Lord, just they're seeing the Lord, they should go back. There's one technical answer that is given. See, when Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, well, let's say Hiranyakashipu was killed by the Lord, Narsimha. Hiranyakashipu did not think of Narsimha Deva as the Supreme Lord. Right? He is like, what is this mystical creature? Right? He's only thinking of, this half lion, half man. What is this mystical creature that has come over here? and in his full passion of trying to fight with him, he is fighting over that. Right? Even when they appeared again as Ravana did not think of Lord Ramachandra as the Supreme Lord. Right? He only thought of him as, he's some ordinary man, some ordinary king, and he was actually not even thinking of Lord Ramachandra. He was always thinking about enjoying Mother Sita. Right? And that is how he ended up getting he ended up getting even the opportunity to see Lord Ramachandra because of he's thinking of Lord Mother Sita all the time, and actually in a very wrong way. But you see, Shishupala's case was little different. Shishupala was always thinking of the Lord. And in fact, there's a verse in this particular chapter, I'll just read that verse, where the Lord is describing this secret. Parikshit Maharaj is describing this secret. He is being described the secret by Shukadeva Goswami. So 7.1.30 Kama dveshad bhayat snehat yatha bhaktyeshvare manaha aveshya tad agham hatva bhavastad gatim gataha. Many persons have attained liberation simply by thinking of Krishna with attention and giving up sinful activities. This great attention may be due to lusty desires, inimical feelings, fear, affection, or devotional service. I shall now explain how one receives Krishna's mercy simply by concentrating one's mind upon him. And the next verse, he's saying, Gopya kama, he's giving examples. Gopya kamat bhayat kamso dvesaj chaidyadayo nrupaha sambandhat vrishnaya snehad yuyam bhaktya vayam vibho. My dear Yudhishthira, the gopis by their lusty desires, Kamsa by his fear, Shishupala and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their familial relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by our devotional service, have obtained the mercy of Krishna. In the purport to this verse, Srila Prabhupada explains that ultimately we have to become purified. Only when we are fully purified, we can go back to Godhead. And how does the purification happen? The purification happens by being in touch with Krishna in any one of these 5 ways. In any one of these 5 ways, if you are constantly touching Krishna, because Krishna is all pure, and for the Lord there isn't anything like enemy or friend. You are constantly thinking of Him, right? Then they become purified. And they go back to God. See, Shishupala is the only one who had that time also to go and constantly think of Him. Right? In Hiranyakashipu's case, Narasimhadeva appeared. He was bewildered who this person is. He was fighting, and then all the matter was finished. In the case of Ravana was never thinking of Lord Ramachandra. If he was actually constantly thinking of Lord Ramachandra, this Ramachandra is going to come, I need to kill him, this and that, then he would have become purified. He would have gone back to God and then itself. But Shishupala was, because of who they were, Shishupala and Jaya Vijaya, right? They are powerful devotees of the Lord. That so much of, he had Shishupala, so much opulence, That he was thinking, who is this Krishna? He is my equal. And how is it this thing? With a lot of envy, he was constantly, every moment thinking about him. That thinking, even though it was inimical, it purified him. In fact, this is the whole secret of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness itself. How did Srila Prabhupada coin this term? From where did he coin this term? Krishna Bhakti Rasabhavitaha. Right? Where is that from? Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Right? So there, Krishna Bhava, always constantly thinking of Krishna. That is the secret of Krishna consciousness. It's actually a very simple secret. We should figure out how can we be immersed in thinking of both the Lord, by the way, not just the Supreme Lord, even of thinking of the Lord's devotees, His pure devotees, and by constantly associating with them, we can go back to God. We can completely get purified. Now, technically speaking, you can think of inimically of the devotees of the Lord and still get purified. But it's not a very favorable way to do that, because you'll offend the devotees invariably. Right? That is the entire secret of Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada, is explaining. I'll just read a little bit from that purport. Different persons achieve different types of mukti. Sayujya, Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Sarshti, according to their own intense desire, which is called bhava. When we talk about the 9 processes of 9 steps of devotional service, right? What is the bhava? Is the penultimate stage before prema, right? So bhava, means we have to intensely desire the Lord. The word intense is important. Constantly and intensely we desire the Lord. Thus it is described here that the gopis, by their lusty desires, which were based upon their intense love for Krishna, became the most beloved devotees of the Lord. Although the gopis at Vrindavana expressed their lusty desires in relationship with the paramour, Parakiya Rasa, they actually had no lusty desires. This is significant of spiritual advancement. Their desires appeared lusty, but actually they were not the lusty desires of the material world. Chaitanya Charitamrita compares the desires of the spiritual and the material world to gold and iron. Both gold and iron are metal, but there is a vast difference in their value. The lusty desires of the gopis for Krishna are compared to gold, and the material lusty desires are compared to iron. Kamsa and other enemies of Krishna merged into the existence of Brahman. But why should Krishna's friends and devotees have the same position? Krishna's devotees attain the association of the Lord as his constant companions, either in Vrindavana or in the Vaikuntha planets. Similarly, although Narada Muni wanders in the 3 worlds, he has exalted devotion for Narayana. Aishwaryaman. The Vrishnis and Yadus and the father and mother of Krishna in Vrindavana all have familial relationships with Krishna. Krishna's foster father and mother in Vrindavana, however, are more exalted than Vasudeva and Devaki. So we should think about this. What is the practical application of this in our own lives? Our goal should be, how do we immerse ourselves in thinking of Krishna all throughout the day. If you're able to achieve that in some form or other, that's it. Then only time. Remember, time is also there. We should constantly keep putting the iron rod in the fire, it will become red hot. Right? That is why, see, the practical aspects of this, going back again to what Krishna says in the Gita. See, with Kshanamapi, not even for a moment can a person not be without acting. So one has to act all the time. That is why it is so important that we come up with a way to live, a lifestyle where all 24 hours of the day we are thinking of Krishna. We are associating Krishna. The more effect is there if it is intense thinking of Krishna. Right? Now, so let's begin the day at early morning, chanting time, Mangalarti chanting. As Madhupada Prabhu was explaining this morning, before chanting, we played that thing. It is, we have to actually, the main potency over there is we have to, when you take your food, you should go in your mouth. Right? You can't keep feeding all over your face. You have to hear that intensity, that concentration, that giving up all thoughts. Krishna is here, how can I think of Krishna? Because thinking of other things, it's like, example is given of, you're trying to get warmth from the fire, but you have a very thick gloves on, not the plastic gloves, thick ones, insulated. You can keep on keeping your hand there. Right? Initially, there is literally no feeling of heat. And then that heat, that fire has to burn the plastic and go into that, then only you'll start feeling the heat. So that is why we have to be very thoughtful and careful about having our concentration, having our fixed focus in whatever activity we're doing. That is why we talk about 3 levels. Being mindful, right? And then being soulful and spiritful. So mindful means at least our mind is not wandering here and there. When you start doing that, the other things need spiritual advancement. The first process is in your hands. The other 2 will come naturally. Because of association with Krishna, we will become more and more spiritual, more and more spiritualized, and we will advance. Okay, we have very less time. We won't do breakout sessions today, but let me actually go around and ask different aspects of it. So I gave an example of chanting, right? How do we get the most intense association with Krishna during chanting? Which is, what is the most important way? Just hear. And the diamond quote, as Prabhupada keeps saying, your mind goes away. We spend a lot of chanting time thinking, oh, my mind went away, how should I prevent the mind from going? How do I bring it back? It's not about like, oh, this went away. Even thinking about the fact that mind went away is also thinking. Right? And in that moment when you're thinking the mind went away, this thing, that much time you're losing the opportunity to put Krishna into your ears and taste the Supreme Lord. Okay. So that happens. Then what happens? When we are, let's say, attending Mangalarti, attending Darshanarti, How can we get 100% of Krishna? How do we intensely associate with Krishna at that time? What is the secret there? Focusing on the deities, yeah. Right? Looking at the deity form of the Lord. Simple process, right? You're there. The deities, that is why we take so much of effort and with love we dress the Lord so beautifully. Just feast your eyes on the beauty of the Lord. Like look at the different aspects. Oh, what color combination is the Lord wearing? What jewelry does he have? How is his jewelry sitting over? Just concentrate on the different forms of the Lord. Right? And then when we are singing, just hear again. Be over there, be in the moment. Anywhere you're touching Krishna, you're able to intensify. Again, the intensity is important. How do you intensify our association with Krishna at different aspects of different parts of the day? So, you can just sit there and be distracted, right? Talking to somebody, doing something, or looking at your phone. Like there are hundreds of ways you can get distracted and not have that intensity. But you can get the intensity by using some of these, processes of getting the best out of every aspect of it. Right? For example, you'll sing different songs. Think of beautiful tunes of singing and concentrate on the tunes and say, oh, how beautiful Krishna's, this wonderful composition of the Acharyas are. All these wonderful, nice songs sung by the Vaishnava Acharyas. And let me sing in a particular tune, and then concentrate on that, think about it. Or if you know how to play musical instruments, how can I play that better? Just put intensity of thought and concentration over there. Right? We say, right, attention Shakti. That is the prime Shakti of the soul. Right? Now, next, when you're listening to class or something, how do you have intensity? Jai Srila Prabhupada. So what is it? Huh? Focusing on the message. Yes, hopefully. No, not sleeping in class. But what are the other ways? What are the other practical ways we can actually focus? Listening, yes, obviously. Huh? Okay, instructions. What other means? Think about it like you are sitting in a class. How can you make sure that your focus is there, attention is there? Yeah, right? Taking notes, right? Oh, let me write down what are the 3 key points, right? What is the key message? Like today, if I asked, like, what is the message? Right? What's it? Deepa Mataji. What is the today's class? What is the main message you'll take away? You came late. That is the message you take away. How many minutes were you here? In 10 minutes only you tell what is the most important thing I said. How to think of Krishna intensely. If you take away one thing, intensity. You understand? So like that, actually write down and say, okay, what are the 2-3 things? And usually what helps is, when you take that message and say, when I'm going to meet devotees next, or when I talk to somebody next, like I want to take some message from here and discuss about it. And think, okay, what is it that I can discuss? Like, what is the thing that, that really stuck to you kind of a thing? So please take the time, to increase the intensity during the hearing by what are the key messages. And as Mataji said, how do I apply this practically in my life? In fact, Prabhupada says the best way to attend a class is that, okay, you take something and then you keep thinking about it throughout the whole day, oh, how can I apply? What does this mean to me? One more powerful way is actually when you have to prepare for a class, right? And you have to really concentrate. You have to think, what are you going to tell? What is the key message you have to give? That's why Prabhupada also wanted us to write. To write articles. He encouraged everybody to write some articles, write something. Because when you have to write, it's not easy. Try writing 2 paragraphs, you'll understand it. Right? That's why he created the Back to Godhead magazine. He wanted devotees to write articles and do all those things. Then a good portion of our day, at least 3 times a day, we have to honor prasadam. Right? It's an important aspect of it. And Srila Prabhupada was the epitome of intensity during that. Does somebody remember how Prabhupada showed this intensity of making prasadam and honoring prasadam also? Anybody remembers? Right? In fact, many times you will see Srila Prabhupada will be sitting against a wall and this thing. Or is honoring by himself, very, he's relishing every moment of the prasadam, thinking about, oh, how tasteful this is. This is Krishna. This prasadam has touched Krishna's lips. There is his saliva is there in this. Intense, beautiful, tasteful. And while making prasadam also, right? You have heard Prabhupada would almost silent. Just give this, take that. That's it for hours, 1 or 2 hours. I was just recently hearing Srila Prabhupada, this is in 1966, the first year. Just right after Janmashtami, the first Janmashtami, Prabhupada had made acquaintance with one person who was in the United Nations. And he was going to come and meet Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was very, very eager to preach to this person and not get this opportunity to preach at the United Nations. And so he personally cooked along with Keith. 3 hours, it seems he cooked. Srila Prabhupada cooked. And he said, all those 3 hours, Prabhupada was very silent, give me this, give me that. And he made some really wonderful. Prabhupada was very famous for his cooking. Right? They made some wonderful preparations and all that. 3 hours. Concentrate, nothing else. So when we are cooking prasadam and this thing, just concentrate on okay, this is, I'm Radharani's servant. I'm cooking for Krishna. Think, how can I make this flavorful? How can I learn new ways of cooking? Again, that's the intensity, right? You see, people, when they'll say, oh, chapatis, you buy the 4 frozen chapatis from Costco and you heat them up. That is also chapati. It also has some flavor. But there is some this thing to it. Next, you go buy some whole wheat, from somewhere, freshly, bake it, and put some, I think they put some yogurt for, some kind of, fermentation and softening and all that. And then you fold it 2-3 times. I'm just giving theory, I don't know. You fold it 2-3 times and then this thing, then you get layer by layer, right? And have you seen the professionals, they will, one side, they will heat with, on the tawa, and the other side, they will heat with, on the fire. Have you seen that? How many of you do that? Nobody does it, huh? At least I know the theory. Huh? Only professionals. You need gas stove. Yeah. Oh, you are electric, huh? Oh. Yeah. Unfortunate. If you do it on real wood, you will get even more flavor. Actually, the flavor of the wood, comes to this thing. Huh? Yeah, cow dung. Actually, in fact, they make that. Somebody was telling me that bhati or something, they make in The only in cow dung it has to be made. Then only that flavor will come. Right? If you want to take it up to next level, what is the next level of chapati making? I heard they do this in Hungary, in Krishna village. There is a beautiful farm. Not only they grow their own wheat, every day they grind the wheat in a stone grinder. They grind the wheat. And in fact, there is a restaurant in New York, Divya's Kitchen. They have every day they take the wheat and grind it. They don't do it in a stone grinder, but they do it in a machine. Every day, freshly they grind. Every day. And this thing, I've eaten over there. The chapatis are really good. And so that is the next level of taking, same chapati making. You see the intensity is different. And you can taste it. Like I've eaten chapatis and so many people, this thing are such great cooks, but I tell you that chapati in that Divya kitchen, I'm sure if you go to Hungary and eat in that, community over there, that chapati will taste completely different. It is grown over there, organically grown this thing. So like that, we are up for time. Every aspect of our life, we should increase the intensity of our thinking of Krishna. And if you think of Krishna in any way, you will get liberated. Okay, we'll stop here. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Bol Premanande.